morning, you big bunch of sparrows. How are you? Okay, so I get to share a story with you. Jesus, by the way, Jesus loved to tell stories. And one of my favorite quotes is from a guy named Elie Wiesel. God made boys and girls because he loves stories. Did you know each one of you is a story? And Jesus is a storyteller. So here's a story he told. I'm going to read this through out of the book of Matthew and then share some things with you about it. Um, Jesus is saying this: it is just like a man going abroad who called his household servants together before he went and handed his property over to them to manage. He gave one 5 talents, another 2 talents, another 1 talent. Now, that is not a term that any of us hear very much, but a talent was actually a weight. And it was uh, like 1 talent was worth about 15 years' wages of a person working. Can you imagine that? So you can imagine if you get 5 talents worth 15 years' wages, what is that? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. But another guy got only 2 talents, and another guy got only 1 talent. It says he gave this to them according to their respective abilities. Then he went away. So, according to their respective abilities, what this is telling us is that God has given each one of us talents. Each one of us gifts, abilities to use in this world, and not everyone has the same. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some of us have maybe a lot of talents and gifts, some have fewer, but it doesn't matter. All of us, every one of us, if you're breathing, you have talents and abilities and gifts from God, every one of us. So then he says he went away. The man had received 5,000 or received 5 talents, went out at once, and by doing business with a sum, he made another 5. Similarly, the man with 2 made another 2. But the man who had received 1 went off and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. So you get there's 3 guys, right? First one works hard with his talent and it multiplies. The second one does the same, it multiplies. Not the same amount, but the third guy didn't do anything with it. He just buried it. Some years later, the master of these servants arrived and went into the accounts with him. The one who had 5 talents came in and brought him an additional 5 with the words, "You gave me 5 talents, sir. Look, I've increased it to another 5. Well done," said his master. "You're a sound and reliable servant. You've been trustworthy over a few things. Now I'm going to put you in charge of much more." And what this is saying, when Jesus gives us something and we use it, he's proud of you about that. And he wants to give you even more. He says, "Come in and share your master's rejoicing." He rejoices over you when you use what you've given him. Then the servant who had received 2 came and said, you gave me 2. Sir, look here, two more, and I've managed to make by it. "Well done," said his master. "You're a sound and reliable servant. You've been trustworthy over a few things, and I'm going to put you in charge of many. Come in and share your master's pleasure." Now, do you notice the guy that got 5 talents and multiplied it, and the guy that got 2 talents and multiplied it, they got the same praise from Jesus. It's not how much you have, it's whatever you do have that you use for God in your life. Then the man who had received the 1 talent came in and said, "Sir, I always knew you were a hard man, reaping where you never sowed and collecting where you never laid out. So I was scared, and I went off and hid your talent in the ground. Here's your money intact." "You're a wicked and lazy servant," his master told him. "You say you knew that I reap where I've never sowed and collect where I never laid out. Then you ought to have put my money in the bank, and when I came, I should at any rate have received what belongs to me with interest." Now, here, the master in the story is really upset with this guy. Well, what did he do wrong? He didn't lose the money. He saved it, put it in the bank, but that's not what the master wanted. And it's not what Jesus wants for us. When we have the different gifts and abilities that God has given each one of us, and we don't do anything with it, that's when God is upset because we've wasted it. We have not done anything to make any difference anywhere. We've just kind of sat around, buried it, watched TV and do video games, and that's it. And he was not pleased. He said, take the talent away from him and give it to the man who has 10. Well, gosh, that seems unfair. But Jesus will give more to anyone who begins to practice and invest what talents and gifts he has. For the man who has something will have more given to him and will have plenty. But as for the man who has nothing, even as nothing will be taken away. And throw this useless servant into the darkness outside, where he can weep and wail over his stupidity. So this kind of lines up with another incident in Jesus' life. Do you remember the feeding of the 5,000? There's 5,000 people who needed lunch. And Jesus told his disciples, you feed them. They went, what? There's 5,000 people here. What are we going to feed them with? And one of Jesus' disciples says, there's a little boy here with 5 loaves and 2 fish. But what can that be of use for to feed these 5,000? The little boy gave up his lunch. His talent, so to speak, was his lunch. 5 loaves and 2 fishes. That's all he had. And he gave it to Jesus willingly. He forgo his lunch was foregone. What did Jesus do? He multiplied it and fed all 5,000 people there. The point of this story is Jesus says, give me what you got. Whatever I put in you, give me what you got. And then I will use it to bless others. And then you will be blessed because you use it. So the question becomes 2 things for each of us. What's our talent? And that's the first thing to look at. What is it you bring? You know what? It might be that you've got a great smile. Well, do you use that great smile with others when you're with them to bless them? I mean, it could be simple things. It doesn't have to be big things. But each of you have a talent. Each of you have an ability. Each of you have a gift. So the second thing is, are you using it? How are you using it? Or how can you use it? I've got a lot of things I look in my life that I got a lot of things I'm not good at. Probably way more things I'm not good at than I am good at. But so one of them is doing what I'm doing right now, teaching you. God has given me a gift to do that. And if I don't use it, he'll give it to somebody else. But I use it. And I know that when I use it, I am so encouraged myself by doing this with you. It encourages me. This is true for all of us. So here's your assignment next week. Talk to whoever you're with in your home. Let's talk about what your talent is, and then talk about how you're going to use it. That sound good, Sparrows? Amen.